The United States makes the UN work when it wants it to work. And that is exactly the way it should be, because the only question for the United States is what's in our national interest.
My name is John, and the International Criminal Court is now in session. It is November 12th, 2025, and once again we are going to discuss the situation within Ukraine. So, let's begin. First of all, we are going to talk about the recent breakthrough that took place in the direction of GULAYIPOLE, or GULAYIPOLE. The Russians have basically collapsed the entire armed forces of Ukraine's defenses in this area. GULAYIPOLE is now a sitting duck. After they captured Novouspanovsky and Solodiki and Nove, the Russians have pushed further and captured the villages of Rivno-Pila and Yablokove. And because of these advances, the Russians are now within striking distance of GULAYIPOLE. Like, now they can try to strike the town with FPV drones from the north without much of an issue. Now, even though they were within range of GULAYIPOLE from the south, they weren't able to truly break through it. But now, it appears that time is coming to a close. So, with the capture of Rivno-Pila and Yablokove, it's only a matter of time before Vasily, Zeleny and Zatishia all fall to the Russians, alongside Viskoe. After these places fall, then GULAYIPOLE will be up next. And at this point, I don't think the armed forces of Ukraine have much longer left in this town. In fact, I believe the AFU could withdraw from this town without a fight, because of the infamous manpower shortage right now that is taking place within Ukraine as a whole. They literally are having trouble defending their towns and villages against supposedly a smaller group of Russian forces here. Literally, the Vostok group, which is supposed to be the smallest Russian army grouping in Ukraine, is easily whooping their ass in this area. And if we go a little further up north to the Dnipropetrovsk region, the Russians have further consolidated their control over parts of Oristopol and have also cleared the fields too, between Oleksivka and Oristopol proper. So the Russians right now are fighting for this village, and it seems only a matter of time now before Oristopol falls. Now, I honestly don't know if Veliki Komikhalivka is going to hold for much longer either, but time will tell. But things do not look good for the AFU as of right now. Their defenses are getting completely routed out and chased away from literally the southern part of the Volga River. Like, everything like south of the Volga River or east of the Volga River that goes through Zaporizhzhia and Dnipropetrovsk regions are being conquered by the Russians, like, without a fight. If there even was any or so. And then moving into Dnipropetrovsk region proper, at least well from the Pokrovsk direction, the Russians have continued clearing the areas west, like of the Donetsk region. Like, they're pushing further west towards Novopavlovka. And also, some breaking news just came out. According to Radov, apparently the Russians have already now started fighting in the direction of Mazova and Pavlograd. They had just recently entered the village of Novo Pidoridne, and they have already taken a decent chunk of the town. Now, whether or not if they have consolidated here remains to be seen, but yeah, this is not good news for the armed forces of Ukraine. This is a disaster. But yeah, if Russians are able to capture this village, then yeah, it won't be long too before Mazova is breached. Probably in the next few months or so at this pace, because Pokrovsk, as all of you know, is about to fall. And speaking of which, let's actually go there. So, Syriac just updated the map in the last 1 to 2 days, and oh no. The entire TL406 road, which goes between Pokrovsk and Mazova, has been completely seized by the Russians. Well, at least in the Donetsk region section, that is. Like everything from Molodetsky all the way up to Krasnoyarsk or Pokrovsk, literally, the entire road has now been taken over by the Russian army. So Udachny is secured, Kotline is secured. I mean, this is complete disaster. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. And also, I don't know if anybody is aware of this because of how much they hate them, but breaking news, Deep State UA, I think last night or so, just announced that the entire southern commie blocks within the city of Pokrovsk are under Russian control. They literally just admitted it. So what this means, effectively, now, even though they have the majority of Pokrovsk still in a massive gray zone, they do have the southern commie blocks here, which is, in my opinion, the most strategic part of the city, under Russian control. And what I think that means in general is that the Russians have basically captured the city. And if you look at the map right now of Pokrovsk, yeah, it's basically de facto Russian controlled at this point. The only parts that they don't have at this moment are the small northern dachas, but that's basically it. Russians control Pokrovsk. It's fallen to the Russian army control, though the MOD hasn't claimed it yet. Quite humble if you ask me, but yeah, it appears that the city of Pokrovsk, or Krasnoyarsk, as some people would still like to call it, is under Russian control, like, for the most part. And then going further south, the Russian Ministry of Defense just announced that Suky Yar, which is adjacent to Mayanograd and Lisovka, has also fallen to Russian control. Now, a lot of people seem to be a little bit confused by this one because, I don't know, there's just no, like, there's, like, a lack of information right now, like, in regards to, like, geolocations and such, but I'm willing to believe this one because Lisovka is now basically under full Russian control. Like, there's no doubt about it now. The Russians pretty much took it at this point. So it would make sense for Suky Yar to be under Russian control, too. And then also going a little further up north into the city of Mayanograd, the Russians are beginning to clear out the neighborhoods here within the city, or the southern part of the city of Mayanograd. And the Russians have also entered the central commie blocks, too, within Mayanograd as well. So in the next few days, probably 50% or so of Mayanograd is going to be under Russian control. And that number is probably going to grow even further because Syriac just put the entire, like, main series of commie blocks within Mayanograd in a gray zone. Like, look at that. It wouldn't surprise me, again, if Ukrainians aren't even there anymore. I hear a lot of them are being killed en masse right now or are surrendering too. So, yeah, I feel like in the coming days or so, the armed forces of Ukraine are going to lose basically the entire, like, commie blocks in Mayanograd. And as for the whole city itself, I still think it has at least one more month to go. Well, month, that is. Sorry if I slipped my tongue there for a moment, but I believe that the town realistically is going to be taken by Russia very soon, though I don't think it's going to be too soon, but it will definitely be in December before the new year hits. And then going into the Doropila direction, or now I say the northern Pokrovsk direction, because I don't think it's the Doropila direction anymore, Russians somehow keep advancing within Shakove and Vlodomirivka, but we literally have next to no information about this area, like, at all, other than that. And then going to Konstantinovka direction, the Russians are continuing to push in the village of Ivanopilia, and at this point, I think the Russians have captured the majority of it, and the Russians are also continuing to dig in with their DRGs in the vicinity of Konstantinovka. Now, going a little bit into Chasiv Yar, the Russians have started the battle for Maisky, which is this small village here. And then the Russians have also advanced on the outskirts of Novomarkove. And as for Siversk, we have no news at this time from this town, but according to Radov, he says that we are going to get news tomorrow regarding Siversk, and apparently it is good news for the Russian armed forces. So, yeah, we're probably going to see some orange here on this map in the next day or so. So, yeah, I would keep an eye on Siversk because I think this town doesn't have much longer, especially with the unfolding events that are taking place in Liman and Yampol. And speaking of which, Yampol is now... I think Syriac should just put all of this under a gray zone because it seems to me that nobody can really hold it due to the amount of, crazy amount, that is, of FPV drones that just swarm all over the village. It's just not possible to hold it for either side. Liman, the situation has not changed, nor has it changed in the western outskirts here. And then going all the way to the city of Kupiansk, there is a bit of conflicting information right now. So there were claims that the Russians were able to take control over the entire eastern half of the city, but there are people out there, including Syriac, who do not believe those claims. And to be honest, I can get their logic behind it because we don't have any geolocations or such at this time to prove that. And it also took a while for the Russians to release the geolocations from Kupiansk itself, the western side that is. So, yeah, we're going to have to wait a little longer before we get more news from here, but I'm expecting it to be in the favor of the Russians. But still, though, western Kupiansk will continue to be contested just a little more because of the Ukrainians' unwillingness to give up. But I think eastern Kupiansk's fate has already been sealed. Now, last thing before I go, again, the city of Volchansk is being cleared up by the Russian army, and I'm expecting it to fall before perhaps Turkey Day, which will be at the near end of November. So, that's going to do it for today's short video, everybody. I hope every single one of you has enjoyed it. Tell me in the comment section below what you think of the news, and I hope every single one of you has a great day. So take care, and goodbye.